After you have completed administering the print tool in one or all of the sections, which are the capital letters, numbers, and lowercase sections, you can now begin to score the print tool. To score, you have to fill out the score sheet by following the step-by-step instructions provided by the user guide. On the first page of the score sheet, you'll fill out general information about the student, such as name, age, school information, which school papers you reviewed, and what physical and fine motor observations you made, such as the student's attention, sitting posture, pencil grip, and with which hand they hold the pencil. On the next page, you have the scoring sheet for the capital letters section. They are separated into components and are calculated into percentages that way. I'm only going to show a few examples of each of the components so you get an understanding of the scoring process. Then after that, I will show you how the completed score sheet looks like. For the memory component, you just have to look at the student's work and make sure they were able to recall all 26 letters of the alphabet. In this case, the student was able to recall all the letters, so we mark 26 correct out of the 26 total attempted. Under those boxes, it prompts you to divide the total correct by the total attempted. In this case, it comes out to 100%. For the orientation component, you just have to make sure all letters are facing the proper way and make sure they are not reversed. In this case, the letter Z and the letter J are reversed. So we circle them on the score sheet to mark them as errors. Then we count the total correct over the total attempted. These shaded boxes are letters that are symmetrical as capital letters, so we do not count those. So we got 15 out of 17, then we just get the percentage. For the placement component, we use the measurement tool, which is in the form of a transparency that you place on top of the student's worksheet. You use the placement baseline indicated for the 1st through 4th graders, since in our example the student is in 1st grade. Here you line up the placement tool with the baseline on the worksheet, and we are looking for words that are not sitting on the baseline or that land within the shaded area. Any letter that is placed outside of the shaded area is marked as an error on the score sheet. In this example, the letters F and G lie outside of the shaded area, and so they are marked as errors. Okay, for the size component, you are using the size preference section of the measuring tool. Here you are looking at every letter and finding the smallest size gray block that the letter completely fits in vertically. Once you find an appropriate box for a letter, you record the letter by grade size. In this example, the letter A fits in the pre-K box. So does the letter B. The letter D here fits under the plus size box, so it is recorded on that section of the score sheet. On this side, you circle every letter that appears below their grade level or as stated by the user guide. Here we would circle the letters in the pre-K and plus size boxes. The start component is actually observed while the student is being administered the print tool. Here you would take note when a child initiates the beginning of a letter from the incorrect start point. The user guide provides a reference of the appropriate starting point for each errors. Each letter that is started incorrectly is marked as an error. The sequence component is also something that you observe while administering the test. Right here you can see the sequence component. Here you're not only observing for how they start the letter, but also on the direction and placement of pencil strokes done to write the letter. You also reference the proper sequence for each letter from the user guide and mark each incorrect sequence as an error. For the control component, you're going to be looking at several types of neatness and proportion errors. First, we're going to be looking for incorrect points and rounding. In this example, the letters R, S, and U have incorrect roundings. So you'll mark these as errors on the score sheet. You can verify this by making reference to a user guide for proper appearance. And there's a proper appearance on the user guide. In the next section of the control component, we'll be looking at overstrokes and gaps. Here we will be using the measuring tool to look for overstrokes and gaps greater than 1/16 of an inch using the small shaded square to measure. Not sure if you can see it, but right here in this example, the letter H has an overstroke greater than the shaded square, and the letter Q has a gap bigger than the shaded square. This will be recorded as errors on the score sheet. Okay, in the next section of the control component, we will be looking at a midpoint proportion using the tool that they refer to as a wedge. Here you will only be looking for certain letters as stated in the user guide. One of those letters is the letter X. You line the top of the wedge with the top of the left of the X and the bottom of the base of X. Here you can clearly see the midpoint is not in proportion, so you would mark that as an error. For the next section, the control component, you will be looking for identical part proportion. Here you will be using a numbered measuring tool on parts of certain letters to see if the parts are less than 50% of the size of their counterparts. One of those letters that you're going to be looking at is the letter X. Here you can see that one part gives you about a 3 right there, and the other part gives you a little less than 1.5, which is less than 50% of the other side, so you will mark that as an error. Okay, after you do all that and mark your errors, you add your total correct or the total attempted and get the percentage for all the components and then score the totals. You do the same for the lowercase letters and numbers, then come up with the total scores and add them all up on the back page to get the overall score. Okay, I'm going to score all these up, then I'll show you the overall score. Okay, here I have all the scores down, and after you get your overall score, you are now ready to interpret your scores and create a remediation plan.